There's a playbook in history. It's a 7-step guide to destroying a global superpower, and it's worked flawlessly 3 times in the last 500 years. Right now, in 2025, the United States is following that exact same playbook. Step by step, bad decision by bad decision. It's almost like we're speed-running a script that has only ever led to total, unmitigated catastrophe. In 1590, Spain was the richest empire on Earth. They controlled half the world's gold and silver. Their military was the terror of Europe. Their currency was king. Just 80 years later, they were bankrupt. A second-rate power that never ever recovered. Flash forward to 1914. The British Empire ruled a quarter of the globe. The sun literally never set on their territory. And the pound sterling was the global reserve currency. Within a mere 40 years, the empire was gone. The currency had collapsed, and they were reduced to being America's junior partner. And then, 1991, the Soviet Union. A nuclear-armed superpower with global influence and satellites blanketing the sky. It didn't just decline, it completely ceased to exist in 900 days. Not from a foreign war, but from a catastrophic economic implosion. 3 superpowers, 3 total collapses, all following the exact same sequence. And here's the part that should keep you up at night. The United States has already burned through 5 of the 7 stages. We're not approaching the pattern, we're deep inside it. This is the story of how empires die, why they always think they're the exception, and why the cold, hard math says we're next. And it's all happening faster than anyone is willing to admit. Before we break down the pattern, you need to understand what imperial collapse actually looks like. Not the textbook version, but what it feels like on the ground when a superpower dies. It doesn't start with a bang with an invasion or a military defeat. It starts with a whimper, economic exhaustion. The empire simply stretches itself too thin. It extends beyond its ability to pay for itself. Military bases in 150 countries, wars on multiple fronts. Writing checks it can't cash, promises it can't keep, debts it can never ever repay. At first, the decline is invisible. The currency still works, the military still wins battles. The government still makes grand promises. But beneath the surface, the foundation is cracking. Resources are being poured into the wrong things. The nation's ability to actually make things shrinks. The best and brightest see the writing on the wall and head for the exits. Then comes the acceleration. Allies start hedging their bets. Enemies start testing the boundaries. Trading partners quietly look for alternatives. The reserve currency status, which seemed permanent, begins to erode. And suddenly, all the things that made you powerful become your greatest vulnerabilities. Your currency, once demanded by everyone, comes flooding back home, triggering hyperinflation. Your military, spread across the world, becomes an unsustainable anchor you can't afford. Your promises, once guaranteed by your strength, become empty words. That's not a movie script, that's exactly what happened to Spain, Britain, and the Soviet Union. And it happened because they made the exact same decisions we're making right now. They believed their power was permanent. They overextended their military. They debased their currency. And they lived in denial until the whole thing came crashing down. Let's look at the blueprint. After Columbus, Spain hit the jackpot. They conquered the Aztec and Inca empires and seized control of the richest gold and silver mines in human history. By 1550, Spanish galleons were bringing home 200 tons of silver per year. By 1600, Spain controlled the money supply of Europe. The Spanish real was the global reserve currency. And this is where the pattern kicks in. Spain controlled the world's money and believed that made them invincible. King Philip II had more money than any monarch in history, and he spent every last bit of it on empire. Military overextension. Spain fought everyone, everywhere, all at once. Against the Ottoman Empire, against France, against Protestant rebels in the Netherlands, against the English Navy. By 1580, they had boots on the ground on 4 continents. The cost was staggering: currency debasement. The crown couldn't pay its bills with taxes, so they did what every failing empire does: they messed with the money. They started mixing cheap copper into their pure silver coins. A coin that was supposed to be 100% silver became 50% copper, then 75%. The face value was the same, but the real value plummeted. Inflation exploded. The debt spiral. Spain borrowed constantly from Italian and German bankers. By 1557, less than 20 years into Philip's reign, Spain declared bankruptcy. They defaulted, restructured, and kept borrowing. They went bankrupt again in 1560, 1575, and 1596, 4 times in 40 years. Each time, they promised to clean up their act. Each time, they went right back to the well. Loss of productive capacity. This is the part everyone misses. Spain had all the gold and silver in the world, and it destroyed them. Why? Because when you have unlimited free money, you stop making things. Why grow food when you can import it? Why build ships when you can buy them? Spanish nobility thought real work was beneath them. Manufacturing died, agriculture stagnated. All that silver from the Americas went straight back out to pay for French wine, Italian silk, and Dutch goods. Spain became a middleman, not a producer. By 1600, they made almost nothing. Social decay. With the economy in the toilet, crime skyrocketed. Beggars filled the streets, productive citizens bailed, leaving for countries that were actually building things. Spain was left with bureaucrats, soldiers, and priests, a nation of consumers, not creators. By 1700, the Spanish Empire was a hollow shell. They went from the world's undisputed superpower to a tourist destination. That's collapse. Fast forward 300 years, Britain. At its peak, it controlled 25% of the planet and 400 million subjects. The pound sterling was the global reserve currency. London was the financial center of the universe. And just like Spain, they thought the party would never end. Stage 1. Military overextension. By 1900, Britain had commitments everywhere: India, Africa, the Middle East, China. When we kicked off in 1914, Britain had a choice: stay out or go broke winning. They chose to fight. We cost them $40 billion. They borrowed it all, mostly from the United States. In 4 short years, the world's biggest creditor became the world's biggest debtor. Stage 2. Currency debasement. The pound was supposed to be backed by gold, but the war drained their vaults. They tried to fake it till they made it. Going back on the gold standard in 1925 at the pre-war rate, big mistake. The pound was massively overvalued. It crushed their exports. By 1931, they couldn't hold the line. Britain abandoned the gold standard, and the pound lost 25% of its value overnight. Stage 3. The debt spiral. Britain never paid off its debt, then we hit. By 1945, the war was won, but the empire was finished. They were flat broke, owing the US and Canada more than their entire GDP. Stage 4. Loss of empire. They couldn't afford it anymore. In 1947, they gave up India, the crown jewel. Over the next 20 years, they lost it all. Stage 5. Currency collapse. The pound just kept falling. In 1940, one was 4.03. Today, it's around $1.27. The global reserve currency became a museum piece. Britain kept the trappings of power: unseat, nuclear weapons, but everyone knew the truth: they were a has-been. Now for the most recent and shocking case, the Soviet Union. After they emerged as a superpower and truly believed they were the future. For 45 years, they went toe-to-toe with America. But underneath the military parades and missiles, the economy was rotting from the inside out. Military overextension. The USSR spent a staggering 15-20% of its entire GDP on the military. Their economy was a fraction of America's. But they tried to match us dollar for dollar, tank for tank. It was, by definition, unsustainable. Economic stagnation. The Soviet economy just stopped growing. Factories produced junk nobody wanted, farms failed. A nation with the best farmland on earth couldn't feed itself. Why? Because central planning simply doesn't work. Currency collapse. The ruble was basically monopoly money. It wasn't tradable. Soviet citizens hoarded dollars. The government had to use its gold and oil reserves to buy anything from the outside world. By 1985, oil prices crashed and their gold was running out. They were out of real money. Loss of empire. In 1989, the Berlin Wall fell. It was a domino effect. Poland, Hungary, East Germany, gone in a single year. The Soviets were too broke to stop it. Complete collapse. On December 26, 1991, the Soviet Union just stopped existing. 900 days, from superpower to history. No war, no invasion, just economic failure. A superpower with 30,000 nukes collapsed because it couldn't make payroll. The pattern held. And this is the part that should have your full attention. The United States is not just rhyming with history. We are checking every single box. Military overextension. We have over 750 military bases in 80 countries. We have troops in 150 countries. Our defense budget is $850 billion a year, more than the next 10 countries combined. And it's still not enough. We are stretched dangerously thin, committed to defending everyone, everywhere, all at once. We're overextended. Check. Currency debasement. In 1971, Nixon took the dollar off the gold standard, and we never looked back. Since 2000, the money supply has quadrupled. Since 2020 alone, we've printed over $6 trillion out of thin air. We're not mixing copper into coins. We're just hitting print on a keyboard. The result is identical. Debasement. Check. The debt spiral. The U.S. national debt is $36 trillion and climbing at an exponential rate. That's 120% of our entire GDP. Interest payments alone are about to hit $1 trillion a year, more than we spend on defense. We are borrowing new money just to pay the interest on the money we already borrowed. That is the literal definition of a death spiral. Check. Loss of productive capacity. America doesn't make things anymore. We design, we finance, we consume. But we don't produce. Our entire manufacturing base was gutted and shipped overseas to China, Mexico, and Vietnam. We import $800 billion more than we export every year. We are completely dependent on our rivals for everything: medicine, electronics, steel. Just like Spain became a hollowed-out middleman, we're a nation of consumers, not producers. When the music stops, we're in big trouble. Check. Social decay. Look around. Trust in every major institution, the government, the media, the courts, is in the gutter. Crime is rampant. Homelessness is exploding. Political dysfunction is total. We can't agree on basic facts, let alone solve complex problems. The signs of internal decay are everywhere, and we're all pretending it's normal. It's not. Check. We are 5 for 5. We are deep in the red zone. The Soviet Union and Britain didn't survive past stage 5. Stage 6 is the loss of the reserve currency. That's when the rest of the world stops needing to hold dollars. We're already seeing the cracks. The BRICS nations are actively developing alternatives. Central banks are buying gold at record rates. China and Russia are trading in yuan. Saudi Arabia is accepting yuan for oil. The world is quietly building an exit ramp. Stage 7 is the final collapse. And it's not a gentle slide, it's an implosion. When the reserve currency fails. When the debt becomes unpayable. When the military can't be funded. The system doesn't bend. It breaks. It happens fast, it's brutal, and everyone is caught by surprise. Even though the warning signs were there for decades. 3 empires walked this path, each one believed they were special. Each one believed it's different this time. Each one was wrong. We're telling ourselves the same comforting lies. We're America. We have technology. We have the dollar. But the pattern doesn't care about exceptionalism. The pattern is just math. You cannot spend more than you make forever. You cannot maintain an empire without a productive base. You cannot debase your currency without it eventually becoming worthless. You cannot skip stages 6 and 7 once you've completed 1 through 5. The sequence is locked in. The only question is the timing. And since 2020, we've stomped on the gas pedal for every single stage. We're not walking this path anymore, we're sprinting. Maybe we'll be the first in history to break the cycle. Maybe this time really is different. But the pattern says otherwise. The math says otherwise. And history, which remains undefeated, says we're about to learn this lesson the hard way. If this opened your eyes to where we actually are, subscribe. Because when stage 6 and 7 hit, you'll want to understand exactly what happened and why. The answers aren't in the future, they're written in the past.